Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our transatlantic conversation. For nearly 3 years, we've enjoyed the privilege of hosting Association Transformation for the international membership community. Over nearly 40 hours and 70 plus episodes, we've hosted more than 100 guests from the UK, the USA, Australia, South Africa, and many points in between. Regular listeners will know that over the years, we've covered a huge variety of topics, from change management, leadership relationships and 4-day weeks, to financial strategy, income generation, and modern governance practice. And of course, who could possibly forget the unicorns and the puppy dogs episode? We really hope you enjoy every episode, and while we will always make our content freely available, remember, subscribe wherever you get your favorite pods. If you would like to lend us your support, you can do so by subscribing to the pod from as little as $5 a month. Now, hopefully it goes without saying that Elisa and I and the whole Association Transformation production team will appreciate your generosity and your ongoing support. To subscribe, visit patreon.com/Association Transformation and choose the monthly subscription level that suits you best. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Association Transformation. And remember, whatever you're up to today, put your members and your mission first. Enjoy the pod.
Well, hello, and welcome to this episode of Association Transformation. I am Elisa Pratt, Chief Strategist with Brewer Pratt Solutions, and I come to you solo today. I'm flying solo. I'm fighting the good fight all by myself. Sad that Andrew is not here with me today, but there was no way in heck I was going to cancel or reschedule or risk missing today's conversation with a guest that I'm truly, truly excited about. So I don't have a drum roll machine. I don't know what kind of trumpets or musical accompaniment I should use for this, but oh, that didn't really work out very well. But you may already know her. You've probably read her material. You've seen her on Collaborate. You're probably familiar with SMS or Associations Evolve, the journal. We have Belinda Moore with us today. So excited. So excited. Belinda Moore from SMS, the editor of Associations Evolve Journal. Hello, Belinda.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. So excited. Just coming off of ASAE, I was mentioning some of the Australian faces I saw at that annual meeting, and we've actually had quite a few Aussies. I think we've had a Kiwi even for this year's list of episodes. Association Transformation has been quite down under lately. So we're excited to have you. You're kind of the culmination, I think, of you as knowing all that goes on in that marketplace and globally, really. What would you say is the biggest difference between associations and that association community in Australia versus the other markets around the globe?
It's really interesting to see how the different communities have evolved around the globe. The US community is undoubtedly the largest, and the Australian community is relatively small, especially comparable to the US. It's probably more the size of the UK, but one of the things that I really love about the Australian community is it's very connected. People want to be innovative, and it's very much looking towards embracing not just innovation from within the Australian market, but on the global basis as well. And the Australian community works very closely as well with New Zealand. I don't know if it's similar to what you have in the US and Canada, but we tend to work very closely, and a lot of us use New Zealand as a bit of a test market as well, because they are a lot smaller than even the Australian market, and they tend to run on the smell of an oily rag. So the level of innovation we see from New Zealand is quite extraordinary, because the things that their sector is outputting, comparable to their size, is quite amazing, because when you've got literally very, very few resources to work with, it's amazing the innovations that come out.
Yeah, that, necessity pushes us all to be creative and brave and maybe jump jump without looking sometimes. I mentioned, and I'm not sure if everybody knows the acronym, but SMS is Strategic Membership Solutions. But I think of you guys as so much more than membership. You just wrote an article about AI. You wrote one about sponsorships, and of course there's the membership piece in there. But what's your favorite kind of angle? Are you a strategic planner by heart? Are you a membership marketing person by heart? What's your superpower?
Oh, do you know, SMS came because I started the company about a month before I met my husband, who was working in London with associations over there. He's English. And then we met, and within 6 months he was living in Australia and we were engaged. And by that time the name kind of stuck. But we do cover a wide range of things. But really, I'm about association transformation and innovation because I think everything is interconnected. And if you look at, often when you start pulling that thread that someone's got a membership problem, and then you look into it deeply, sometimes you'll see that it might be a fundamental structural issue with their membership model that's inhibiting their success. So my passion areas at the moment, AI, because it's huge, and definitely membership models and transformation, how associations are needing to evolve and or transform depending on the association into the future. I mean, if you look at AI, for example, one of the really interesting things is, like, the telephone took 75 years before 100 million monthly users were using it. And even Facebook took 4.5 years. You've got something like ChatGPT, it was 2 months before you had 100 million monthly users. That's massive. The pace of change is accelerating so quickly at the moment. And if we're not aware of that and adept at adapting to the environment around us, we're going to get left behind, because I know a lot of people are change fatigued coming out of when COVID happened and everything there, but the pace isn't stopping. And it's the associations who are really going to thrive into the future are the ones who are embracing that and leaning into it to leverage not only for their own success, but the success of their members and other stakeholders.
So the AI bomb has officially blown up. It's going to have its victims. It's going to have its victors. And I wonder, coming from ASAE, there was a lot of sessions about AI. And what's based on the associations you're working with, what's kind of the most tactical success, the best practice that you see with those that you're engaged with regarding AI?
It's a duality of approach, because AI is something that an association needs to be able to internalize itself, to understand how it can leverage it to its own success, and not just appointing an AI chief officer or whatever the position may end up being. But every single staff member has to not only know how, but actually be using AI to streamline their roles. Because when an association can adapt to AI themselves, they're in a better position to show leadership to their members, the industries, the professions they serve, and drive it through. And there's a couple of associations who I've been really impressed at the way that they're bringing it together, both in terms of upskilling their staff and not just a one-off. AI is moving so rapidly that if you get training today, that training's out of date by next week, and you need a new training course in a month to bring you up.
Right.
But they're also looking globally to understand what other associations similar to them are using on a global basis, and then bringing that back in, not just to using for themselves, but how other associations are leading their sectors. Because the level of change that we're going to see, I think, is going to be different between industry associations, who've got predominantly organisation members, obviously, and professional bodies, because while sectors like healthcare are going to, ideally, see enormous benefit from AI, it's the individual professions that operate within each of those sectors that are going to undergo significant transformation in the way that their jobs are undertaken. So different types of associations have a different role to play in this AI journey.
That's so interesting. I wanted you to tell me those organizations that you were impressed by. And then I thought about it. What am I going to do? Go to their website? How am I going to track down what they're doing? AI really lives behind the scenes. And to your point, it should help you be a better leader. It should help you serve your members. But Is it part of the fabric of how and what you do, or should there be tangible demonstrations to your members and your staff that you're using it?
That's a good question. I mean, there are associations out there like the PCMA and their Spark program where they're integrating AI into member products and services. And there's a number of other associations who I don't think I'm allowed to talk about just yet, but who are actively looking to develop AI-driven tools that their members can use. So I think it's going to be very, very public in terms of the members seeing how AI is driving positive value for them. But a lot of associations have still got those things in development because AI, it only came out, November last year. A lot of associations are still trying to develop those tools and get them in place. But we are seeing a lot of, at the moment, it's just informational. Like just last week, we've booked 11 workshops, which are basically just live demonstrations where you get in front of whether it's an association group or their members, which is the first time we've actually been pulled in to deliver so many workshops for the members in their sector.
Yeah.
But what those are is the live demonstration, because people don't know what they don't know right now. And when you share your screen and you say, look, this is how you can create an app in 10 minutes or a website in 3 minutes. This is how you can write all your social media posts on this particular campaign, or here, drop the federal budget into this and interrogate it and ask it how well your sector is going to fare. When you show people and give them a chance to go along on their own systems, you see this like mind-blowing effect when they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I could do this. And the number of days, like I would get at least once or twice a day at the moment, emails from people saying, oh my gosh, this has just changed my life. I'm so much more productive. I didn't know that I could use this. And we're still in that really early adopter stage of AI where people are just starting to understand. Like, remember when the internet came out? And Google?
I don't. I'm too young for that, Belinda. You know that. I'm way too young for that.
Well, we're in the Wild West at the moment, and it's very similar to that. And I'd like to say that I'm also too young to remember that, but
unfortunately, we've heard our elders speak of it, but it's more mythology. One of the things I've always been a big fan of is the Association Evolve Journal. And am I correct in that there are 2 iterations? There was a 2022 and a 2023?
So, yep, there was. And that actually came about because I was sitting at a lunch with a group of association people. And because there's so many amazing thought leaders out there. And so what I was doing is saying, oh, you need to follow this person and this person and this person. And over a glass of wine or potentially a bottle, we were talking about how it was so frustrating that there was nowhere that brought together on a global basis the amazing richness of thought leadership that was out there. I mean, you've got the ASAE is fantastic, but it's quite American-centric, and it didn't really bring in that international flavor. So before I knew it, they'd kind of said, well, if no one's going to do it, why don't you start the journal? So it turned into a real passion project where I went through and identified all of the awesome people that I knew out there and just said, right, guys, what do you think? Come in and put it. So it worked out amazingly well. And the interesting thing is the 2022 edition that we did at the end of 2021 was great. We got a really heap of interest. The second one got bigger, and we're just in production now for the next journal. And I've got to say, it's absolutely inspirational because now people have seen a few iterations. They understand that it's about showcasing innovation, practical ideas, and really insightful thinking about where the future of associations lie. And so people have come up with these most amazing topics. So I've got to admit, I'm excited to read it. And the other thing that I really like is we are doing a print version. We did a 1,000 print run last year, and they disappeared really quickly in addition to the electronic. And we really want to go back to that because it provides a medium that I think a lot of people miss. Everyone's jumped on the digital bandwagon, and I'm a huge fan. But sometimes it's nice to have that paper in your hand and a glass of wine or a cup of tea in the other.
Yeah, I do like the highlighter. I do like to write in my margins. I fully admit that. Maybe that's how you know I'm not as young as I say. But, when COVID hit and there was that immediate reaction and the Zoom and the digital and the hybrid and all of that storm that hit, everything was about, going virtual and digital, and it became quite exhausting. And I wonder now if, as part of this AI wave, everything is going to be AI, generated, all these things. Is that what this upcoming journal is going to be about? Am I going to be the only one who doesn't write an AI article?
One of the reasons we ask presenters to check their topics with us is so we can get a breadth. So no, you're not the only person. There's some really clever topics coming through across the board, but there are quite a few AI ones. One of the things that I like is there's a few case studies about what organizations are doing, as well as some of the more higher level thinking. But membership models is another big one, about how associations are having to fundamentally transform. Because as you know, the associations that we enjoy today are built on models that came out of the UK, essentially. And we tend to default to those models because it's what we grew up with. But if you look at the history of associations, which is thousands of years older than those models, there's so many other opportunities and options for us to be pursuing. And what I'm seeing really refreshing at the moment is that people are willing to take an absolutely honest look at their model and say, is this the one that we would choose? Or is this something we're just doing because we've always done it? Right. And really taking big steps to align their model to their purpose. And I think when you add those things into AI and all of the other changes that are happening, that's when you start to see some really powerful impact. But I don't think we can take any one trend and bandwagon and just highlight that.
Good, thank you. Because, Andrew gets quite cranky when the world talks all about one thing too much and overhypes it. So I think we're all looking forward to that diversity. And, you talk about the fundamental change that's necessary to evolve. And I wonder if the solutions offered will be scalable. Coming from ASAE, there was a big push by the small associations. What size would a small association be in Australia?
Oh, that's a really good question, because Australia has never been actually able to say exactly how many associations that they have, because they can be incorporated in lots of different ways. But the small associations are completely volunteer run, tiny, and with a very, very low turnover. You could be talking a couple of $1,000, but generally speaking, the traditional professional and industry bodies, something under $500,000 we'd see as a small association, $500,000 Australian dollar turnover.
Okay. And I know the only measure ASAE uses, I think, is nine staff or less.
So we'd say 5 staff or less.
Okay, great. So what's the time frame? You said the current journal's already in production. When does that hit the streets?
That'll hit the streets probably the last week of November or the first week of December. The electronic version will go out, and that will be shortly followed by the print version being sent out to those who are on the list. Exciting. And so that's it's a fairly big endeavor, and I do that on the side to my day job. So the reviewing of the articles does take me a little bit of time.
I'm sure, I can imagine. Well, and the journal keeps getting bigger and bigger. Will you ever decide to split it into 2 per year instead of just 1?
That's a really good question. We may get to the point of doing that. At the moment, I kind of enjoy doing it once a year, because it's that chance to stop and take a look and think about it, because the ideas that come through in that journal, there's things there that spark inspiration for something that I might want to do in the next year. And I know if it does it for me, it does that for others. And one of the things that I've noticed is that people still aren't great at taking time out to invest in their own development. And having that come out just once a year, when you don't have to look at it every month, because there's some great publications, but they come out every month and you never end up reading them. I'm kind of hoping that someone will get a chance to go through the whole thing over a year, but we'll see.
Well, you're becoming quite the publishing whiz. I mean, tell me about Association Annie. I don't know if everyone's familiar with it, but I love Association Annie. I think she captures so many of the things, no matter what country you're in, we all go through in the association world. Where did Association Annie come from?
Well, I've always been a big fan of the Dilbert comic strips, and a lot of the stuff that you see in there resonated throughout my career. I've been 30 years in associations, and I started copying down true stories that were actually happening. And I thought, oh, I wish I could share these with any people, but you can't, can you? So one day I went, stuff it. I'm just going to put it into a comic strip because that way I'm not naming the guilty. But I got to tell you, every single one of those strips is based on a real story from an association. And I have a huge backlog of things for another edition. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and write it out.
That's amazing. Now, did you do the illustrations? I mean, this is a full-fledged 50-page book of comic strips. Did you do the illustrations as well?
Oh, no. I actually had outsourced the illustrating side of things because as much as I enjoy putting the stories together, I have never been an illustrator. Funny enough, I used Fiverr for it, which is, Fiverr, basically you put up your job and someone comes and gives you a ridiculously low price for it. And I just happened to connect with a group who were able to execute it for me really quickly.
Oh, that's great. Well, I love it. We'll put a link to Association Annie Herding Cats by Belinda Moore in the show notes for this. So, I mean, a true Renaissance woman. I mean, between running this consulting firm and the journal and comics and trainings and speaking, I'm just so thankful we got some time with you. What's next? What's in the works for you besides the journal between now and the end of the year?
Well, we're doing a lot of work with the Answers for Associations, which is a peer networking group for senior association leaders. And that was one that we started in 2017 because we wanted a way to engage without the structure. So you know how you go to a normal conference and they have a talking head up the front and they say something expecting that everybody in the whole room is going to resonate with what they've got to say. And while those things have their place, we wanted to find something that enabled people to connect directly with each other to solve their problems. So that group has been going really strongly, and it's been running a lot of unconferences over the years. And our last one, which ran in Darwin, sold out 7 weeks prior to the event with a lot of people who'd come in previous years.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Because the thing that we're working on is coming up with the calendar for next year of really inspirational events that enable people to have meaningful discussions and evolving the kind of things that we've done this year, which have been really successful, but coming up with new ways for people to connect, because you're right with what you said before. And it's not all about AI. AI is going to enable it. Technology is going to enable it. But associations, when it comes down to it, are about people coming together collectively to advance a common cause. Now, that's the fundamentals of associations. And if you can find ways for people to genuinely connect, then you've achieved most of the battle. And one of the things that when you talk about what's my future or what's my focus now, is actually finding ways to do that better and coming up with new models for getting that connection to happen and showcasing not just how do we structure them, but how do we fund them. And Answers is a classic example because it's actually not funded by members. The members get everything for free because we've come up with whole new funding models. And that's what I think is really important at the moment, is for associations to look at that drawing board and go, well, if we were to open our doors for the first time tomorrow, what would we do differently and how would we build ourselves to more powerfully advance our purpose? So, yes, it's exciting, really exciting times at the moment.
It is. So can you give us a sneak peek into what one of those new funding models is for your online community?
Well, one of the ones that Answers is actually executed really successfully, and that's one of the funding models, is it actually has an exclusive group of vendors. So they're not sponsors. These vendors, we have a longer waiting list of vendors for membership than will ever be allowed in. And to become a partner, you actually have to satisfy a whole heap of criteria in the way that you market, who you service, feedback from existing clients. And the vendors have got to have a vested interest in advancing the association sector, and they pay a monthly membership fee.
Okay.
And that entirely funds all of Answers' operations. So it enables Answers to remove the barriers, because Answers serves the association sector. So why should we apply a membership fee and provide a barrier to those people that the organization exists to serve. So Answers' philosophy has always been, where possible, it should be free to associations because we want it to be fully accessible to everyone who needs it. So the vendor-funded model is a real evolution of sort of third-party programs and other sponsorship models, but bringing it into a tighter, more well-controlled and more engaging format. That we've been using that since 2017 at Answers, and it's working exceptionally well. Your terms and conditions have got to be very, very strict in there, because you only want to work with the best of the best partners, people who are beyond reproach and will engage with your market transparently, honestly, and ethically. And if you can hold those foundations strong, that model can work well. In associations who have tried that model, who haven't enforced those kind of foundations, are the ones that end up struggling, because they chase the money first and foremost, and that's not what it's about. It's a funding model, but there's so many other factors.
So how could someone, I know I'm a member of the association Answers community. How can someone find out more about that?
Just going to answers.net.au, and it's a free community to join, so anyone can jump into the community there. And one of the things that I love about that community, one of my favorite things at the moment, is, remember I told you about the dinner where we came up with the Associations Evolve publication? One of the other conversations that we had there is, oh my gosh, if only I could just ask not only my own networks, but association professionals outside my own networks questions that I've got. And so one of the things that is built into that community, there's a button there called Ask the Community. And when you hit that button and you ask a question, that goes out to every single one of the 2,000 plus senior execs on that community.
That's great.
And so we see some really random questions like, how much do you pay your board, through to, have anyone got any recommendations for a great PCO? But that's just it. The role of an association in this particular situation, which is about peer networking, is to get out of the way, to set up the structures to enable people to connect, whether in person or online, and then back out and let the connections happen. So check out answers.net.au, go in, and if you've got questions, ask the community. And it's good fun.
Well, yeah, the ultimate crowdsourcing. That's great. So the ultimate question I have for you now is, how is it working with your husband? You guys are still in business together. Everything's great. Is there any magic, any I don't know, secret rules? I know I work from home and my husband works from home, and we work on separate floors and we communicate through Teams. But any special tricks to working in close proximity with your spouse?
Do you know, that's a really good question, and I've just learned when to shut the door. We actually work really, really well together because we're both so passionate about our respective areas within the association field. Although I have had to have a word with him recently, because he is right at the forefront of early adopter AI. He is completely immersed in it. And about 4 or 5 times a day, he'll burst into my office and go, guess what's just come out? And it's got to the point where actually on the Answers community, I set up a group called AI Discoveries. And I said, now, whenever you feel the urge to come in my office and share, just pop it into that group. And then once a day, we'll have a chat about what you've listed there, just to channel that enthusiasm. But no, it's good fun. They say, I think when you're both passionate about what you do, it makes it so much easier.
Absolutely. Well, I wholly agree with setting boundaries and keeping some structure in the at-home or shared work environment. And Belinda, this has been really great. I hope we can have you back. I mean, we should probably do a whole AI series, but I feel like it's all we've been talking about these days. So getting a chance to introduce ourselves to you and to welcome you to the Association Transformation family is a real treat. I look forward to submitting for the Association's Evolve Journal for this year. That's exciting. And we'll hope to have you back in the next several months and give Andrew an opportunity to chat with you as well.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So feel free to reach out to Belinda reach out to Strategic Membership Solutions, and I will put a plug for the Association Answers community and Belinda's book in the show notes. But to everyone who's joining us and all our new listeners since the ASAE annual meeting, thanks for your time. And until we meet again, put your members and your mission first.